Super Smash Bros.
Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. Now, a few things up front here. Now, I do have a written review for this. You can check the link in the description if you want to see the written review of this. Also, I want to just make it clear that, like you're going to be seeing up on here, is that I don't have the game anymore. I had it... Basically, I played it on the GameCube a few times, but once I got a Wii, I started playing it on there because that was backwards compatible. But then my Wii broke, so I couldn't replay it in time to do this, but I did play quite a lot of it before. So it's like I have some decent insight, I think, but that's why you're not seeing gameplay footage. You're just going to see a picture, and if I missed a few things, and mess up some details, fuck me, that's on me, but just understand, that's probably why. I still think I have a decent opinion on it, so I can share, and whatever, it's Smash Week, so, videos every day this week and whatnot, so I gotta hit this one, I just gotta. You can check out my previous review, and I'm gonna assume that you either know about the first Smash Bros, or that you have checked out my previous review on Super Smash Bros. There's a real person review, there's a written review of that, go check that out. Or if you already know about it, or you already watched it, and you're here, then you're here. We're all here. Let's get to the Melee. So Super Smash Bros. Melee is another one of those platforming tournament fighters, like the predecessor. It does a lot of the same stuff. The combat system is a little different. This time around, there are side specials, so you can hit left or right while hitting special, and you'll be able to do a different attack. So that gives new attacks for a lot of the characters. Characters have gotten some different moves, some new moves, and changed up how some of the stuff works. Also, now you can do a dodge where you hit shield and hit a direction, or hit the shield in midair. If you're hitting it at the same time, you'll be able to do this dodge, which it might not work on the ground. Actually, I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember, but I know for sure it works in the air. And basically, this makes it so you're invulnerable to everything for a brief moment, where you can't even be grabbed when you do the dodge, which is something that I guess trying to make up for where the shield doesn't come in, and so you can just evade all damage. Nothing can collide with you. Nothing can hit you. And you might think that sounds a little bit overpowered, doesn't it? Well, to make it so you're not just doing that constantly, it does leave you pretty vulnerable, because if you do that, then you no longer can do any jumps. So if you do one of those when you're too far away from the edge, and if you had jumps left, if you did that, that dodge technique, and you're pretty much fucked. If you, I don't know, just if you try to just do it a whole lot, there's an extra time. If you gotta land, you gotta recover from it, and that leaves you open for an attack then. So you gotta really pick when you want to use it. Interesting thing. Also, the idea of counters was added into here, where basically you can hit a button with some characters, and then if you have a certain frame of time where if you get hit, you'll automatically do a count. You'll take no damage and automatically do a counter attack and hit the person that hits you. So that's an interesting little thing thrown in there. Also, now your smash attacks can be charged. So if you hit a direction along with the A button, then you basically hold those. Which I don't know if you need to hold the direction the whole time, or if you just need to hold A button. I think you might just need to hold the A button once it's activated, but you can hold that, and the longer you hold it, the stronger your attack will be until a certain point when it's at maximum, and then it'll just automatically go. So it can do different things with the timing there, and it can, do some more damage. It gets a little more depth to the combat system. Also, there are even more characters here, there are more stages, and there are more items, so there's just a whole lot more stuff here. Plus, there are a whole lot more modes in this one as well. Where there's things like, there's still the classic mode where you go fight through a series of fights, and there's the multiplayer mode, which has more options of how you can customize it this time around. Plus, there's even a coin mode you can turn on during, in the versus menu, where you knock coins out of other players, and you pick those up, and then basically at the end of the match, whatever player has the most money wins. So that's an interesting little thing they added into there. Among other things. But some of the new modes are things like, one of them is a home run contest, where basically there's a sandbag, and you try to beef up the damage of the sandbag, and you're on this little platform, so you try not to knock it off of that platform, and then before the time runs out, you have to take this home run bat that's on there, and you hit the sandbag and see how far you can get it. and it's just kind of a thing to see how far you can hit it. It's just you can try to break records. It's an interesting little thing to do. There's still the target stages. You still do the break the targets thing, but there's no more board the platforms. That was taken out, and also race to the finish was taken out as well. Okay, and also at this time there's a new boss for the final boss in classic mode. So that's. Classic mode is basically like the one-player mode from the first game. There's also an all-new All-Star mode is one where you have to fight through every single character in the game in a series of fights, and between the fights, you go to this little rest area, and you have a limited number of damage-reducing items, to heal yourself up and take away some of that percentage before going on to the next fight. And try to beat all of them with that limited amount of recovery as your damage carries over from each fight. So that's an interesting little thing they threw in there. And there's also adventure mode, which is kind of cool, where you go through these different scenarios, and basically there's things where, you have to go through sections of levels and defeat, minor enemies from different franchises, like, defeating Koopas and Goombas and that from the Mario franchise, and doing stuff from, the Metroid series and Kirby series and stuff like that. It's an interesting little thing. And then in between these sections, you also have fights with characters from those franchises. It's a kind of neat thing to throw in there to make it a little bit more of, an experience rather than just straight-up fights, and, that's interesting. And there's also event matches, which are these very specific matches you can play in. They have very specific rules. You have to do special things, play as a certain character, fight certain characters, do certain things within the match. And a lot of these are actually kind of like custom things that you can't really necessarily set up with the normal game, because the rules are so specific. So it's really interesting to play those, and it's just an interesting way to try to challenge you. And then there's a multi-man melee, where there's a series of different ones here that you can play in, trying to fight off these fighting wireframe characters that basically, you have a certain amount of time, a certain number of those characters you have to kill, or you're just trying to fight really difficult ones. There's trying to see how long you can survive. There's a few of those in there, and that's interesting that they just give you these little options. And again, I don't know if you get really too much for them. They're just interesting little things they throw in there as a fun little challenge for you. And a lot of the stuff, I like a lot of that stuff. I think it's pretty cool. Like, the adventure mode is really neat because it does some new stuff with you. Multi-man mode is kind of cool just to try it out and test your skills with characters. I don't know, I don't care that much about the break the targets thing. They took out board the platforms also and that stuff, and I don't really care that much about home run contests, but they're there just to kind of, have you break records, have you have more things to do. And the main modes are still fun, the gameplay is pretty fun. And the more depth of the combat system is a lot faster, so it's a lot more intense. And there's just so much more stuff that it's crazy. And they're also, an interesting thing here, too, is that, again, while they're doing all this genius stuff with having even more franchises in here that they're cross-advertising for, they also have trophies in this game. So you get trophies through doing some of those different modes and trying to beat those. And there's a certain number of trophies to collect, just you're trying to collect all the trophies. I mean, that's another thing there. It's like, okay, there's a collection element, so that just keeps you playing. And then, of course, you want to go in and look at all the trophies that you've collected, and each trophy represents, a character or an item or something from one of these franchises, one of these Nintendo franchises, and then it shows, it's like, okay, you check those out, and all of them have these little bits of information on them. It's like, oh, cool. Like, I can read this little tidbit about this thing, learn a little more about it, and it makes you kind of want to get these other games, too, and it's just a cool thing to have the information at the collection element, and it really keeps you playing, keeps you hooked, and I think that's also kind of a genius idea, along with the great strength they showed in just putting this on the next system rather than trying to put out another one on the Nintendo 64. Really cool, and, does a lot of stuff, and basically the size of it just blows the original game out of the water. It's crazy how much more stuff is in this one. But I guess I do have a few issues with this game. I think my biggest issue with the game is that the combat to it, and it's mostly me, because I don't hear many people talk about this. I mean, like I said, I don't really care much for the target mode or the home run contest mode, but in this main core fighting mechanic of this game, I feel like it's a little bit lackluster in that it's very fast, but I think it's a little too fast. Some characters I can't really control because they move too quickly. I can't keep up with a lot of the things that are happening in the combat because it moves so fast, and maybe that's just me. Maybe I just suck. I don't play in tournaments, like I say, so it's very possible I just suck really bad. But I feel like a lot of it's just too fast for its own good, and the air dodging thing is a little annoying in this one. I think it could have been maybe a bit better. But the thing, I guess, is really just like everything is so fast, it's hard to keep track of. And then it seems like, characters don't move as far. Like, you hit them and you're doing damage to them, but there's not a whole lot of back and forth. There's not a whole tug of war mechanic, that thing going on. Not as much strategy going on as like in the first game. Which I guess the combat's a little better because it's more intense in this way, because it's easier to do stuff, really fast. But I guess it feels like you have to get the damage meter so high, like the damage percentage so high before enemies are going to start flying off the screen. And then once it hits a certain threshold, all of a sudden they're just flying out like it's nobody's business, and it doesn't feel like there's too much of a gradient. There's no scaling with it. There's not a whole lot of an in-between. It's just like they're barely moving at all. You're just doing all these different hits. They're barely moving, and all of a sudden, bam, you can start smashing them. And then it's just a weird jump to that, and that was kind of frustrating. Also, most characters have some other move that's not a smash move that's really fast for them to do, and therefore more efficient than a smash move that will knock enemies really far away. And because of it, it's like, why would you really use the smash moves too much then? You just try to do a bunch of little shit hits until the damage is magically that magic number, and then just do one of those really fast moves that are going to knock people around. Do one of those, kill them, and go on. And it just is frustrating because it's like, it doesn't feel good to do that. Plus, on top of it, which is a very minor thing, but I don't think the sound effects and for it are that, good. They're not that satisfying. And I guess just overall, that's the problem, is that the combat to me doesn't feel that satisfying. It's not necessarily bad, but I really don't care for it. Okay, that's the thing. And I know a lot of people disagree with me, so definitely, try it out for yourself. That might not be the case for you. It's not the case for most players, but that is definitely a thing that I found rather frustrating about the game. Other than that, I guess there's also the thing of clone characters, which are characters that have basically the same moves as another character, which begs the question, why they even a character in the fucking first place? For instance, they put Falco in this game, and he has basically the same moves as Fox does. I mean, almost exactly the same moves. Which is, it's like, well, did they really need to have another character to do that then? They have Dr. Mario in this game, has almost the same moves as Mario. And, I guess the one that's kind of an exception is, the Captain Falcon and Ganondorf, where they added in Ganondorf, and he has the same moves as Captain Falcon. They're slightly different in that they're slower and they're much more powerful, but they're still kind of the same. And at least there's like a big difference in they're notably more powerful and notably slower, so there's a trade-off going on there that's easy to see. So they're not super close clone characters, even though they are doing pretty much the same moves. The thing, though, and I guess it depends on how you define a clone character and what you're going to count or not count, but the thing is that, I guess, where did Ganondorf get those powers? I mean, at least it makes a little more sense than Captain Falcon, because, I know that Ganondorf is a magical being, in the Zelda games, he's able to use magic and do that. So, I guess that part makes sense. But, why, none of these moves does he know how to do in those games? I only really see him, shoot spells and stuff. I've never seen him do punches, magical punches and kicks like that. So it's still a little bit strange to me, but maybe I'm just too observant for that kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe that was all me. It's just, it's weird. So I guess that kind of wraps up Super Smash Bros. Melee. Again, I don't have the box or anything. I don't have it because my Wii broke. But it's still a really good game. I'm not saying this is a bad game at all. It's probably my least favorite of the Smash Bros. Series, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's still a really good game. The core gameplay of it wasn't that satisfying for me, which kind of ruined most of the game for me. But I like that all these new characters and stages and modes, all this new shit, is just insane. And the tweaked combat, and they added all this stuff, and it was just overwhelmingly bigger than the first game. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. And like what? I guess I don't know. Tell me what. Oh, also I think graphically, it holds up a hell of a lot better than the Nintendo 64 one, because I think people would probably still say it looks good today. I think it still looks fine. It doesn't look like polygons. I didn't hate the Nintendo 64 one the way that looked. I liked it, but I know most people won't. Also, a lot of the music is remixes of familiar themes, and they sound pretty good, so that's cool that those are thrown in there. But like, yeah, like what is, again, like I don't know if you want to say your favorite Smash game, or what is your favorite character in Melee? It's been a while for me. I don't know who I necessarily pick as my favorite. Maybe Marth. I did like playing as Marth a lot in there, so I maybe have to play it again to really pick one from that a little more intensely. But Marth was the one I used the most since he felt good to play as, so I mostly played as Marth. Yeah, and I don't know what else. If you can stay tuned for more stuff for Smash Week. You can check the description below to see a written review of this. And this game was just so crazy and huge. It's like, how could they possibly build upon this? How could they make something bigger and better than Super Smash Bros. Melee? And maybe if you stay tuned, we'll find out what they did for that. Which means I'm gonna review another one. So please subscribe.
Super Smash Bros.